Hello, gorgeous seekers, and welcome to the Aquarius full moon. Those of you who have been with me for a little while know that the Aquarius full moon's one of my favorite moons, but one of the more intensive energies that happens throughout the year. And this moon is no exception. In fact, this moon has some really big, culminating lessons that we can take with us from what we were learning in July specifically, but a lot of us have been learning throughout the year of 2019. And even when I was trying to check in with this Aquarius full moon, which is happening on August 15th at 5:29 a.m. Pacific, 8:29 a.m. Eastern, I wanted to control what was going to come up for me. I wanted to sit down and write up my notes, as I normally like to do, and have my keywords, have my affirmations, have my words prepared a little bit, because I want to check in with this energy. I want to know that I'm covering all the bases and that I can really talk to you about the aspects going on. But funnily enough, this moon has everything to do with two big themes, love and control. And in me trying to kind of control the way I was going to present this message and control the way we were going to have a discussion today, I just couldn't make it happen in that way. I had to come in with that free-spiritedness that often is associated with Aquarian curiosity. I'm a Leo, and this is happening just before my birthday, this full moon, and the Leo-Aquarius axis is a really powerful one. And I have to say that one of the things you will notice if you hang out with Leos or Aquarians is that sense of control, is that sense of, I have this, I know how to do this well, I know how to lead into this. Both Leos and Aquarians are very good leaders, and they're very good at taking the helm of projects. And both Leos and Aquarians often have to learn how to relax that part of themselves and learn how to flow with things a little bit more and learn more about that mutable quality of energy, which is so capable of moving through change and shift. And the Leo-Aquarius axis is the quintessential heart of each of these signs. As Leo is that leader. It's associated with royalty, with, yes, ego, but also, identity and owning the spotlight, creativity, and children as well. And Aquarius is associated with the collective, with humanity, with our communities, and the way that we show up in those communities, and the way we connect, and the way we dissolve from just being an individual in the spotlight into the whole. Even though Aquarians are quite individual, like they're quite the individuals, right? They're very creative, very interesting. It's not like they're not also stars and shining, because that's the thing with Leo-Aquarius axis. Once again, these are energies about showing up to the plate and really showing up with full force and full ferocity. And it's a very intensive fixed sign energy axis. For those of us in it, I know there are many of you out there right now sitting with me. You know what I'm talking about here. But anyway, so because we have these very full force, full-fledged, fixed sign, fire and air energies lighting up in this moon, questions about control and our sense of control and where we feel we need to have control are coming up. And this is concluding a month in July that involved big eclipses that had to do with security, and our sense of security had to do with our past selves and with the vision of our future selves, with that Cancer, Capricorn, north node of the moon, south node of the moon light up with the eclipses, and a Mercury retrograde that took us into some emotional places. And this full moon is helping us step away from that action in July, but also look at it quite authentically, because here's what's going on. I didn't write up big notes. As we're speaking here, I'm letting the messages come through. But I did look at the aspects. The Sun and Venus are conjunct during this full moon, which is beautiful. They are at 22 degrees of Leo. What a beautiful degree placement. 22 is one of those magical numbers that has to do with self-actualization and showing up and paying attention to the details, right? And really being able to work through those. It's a master number in numerology. So Sun and Venus are conjunct at 22 degrees of Leo. And that is a beautiful placement, right? Venus and the Sun love to play together. They love being in Leo, where they can be magnified, playful, flirty, curious, creative. Leo rules the heart, so this is, Venus in that heart energy is such a happy place for it to be expanding. The Sun is at home in Leo, so the Sun is feeling really good. We're all benefiting from the warmth of this energy, and it's bringing up all those true desires we have to feel total love, to feel total open-heartedness, to feel that expansiveness that comes with that hopeful, full-hearted experience, right? But it's also getting lit up by that opposition with the moon at 22 degrees of Aquarius. And because, full moons are reflective times, we're lighting up an oppositional axis, and that is a mirror process. So what happens with full moons and why some people feel a lot of deep emotion with it is because it illuminates things, it helps us see clearly. So this moon opposing the Sun and Venus is having us look at where we want to have control so that we can get the affection we want, so that we can get the experiences we want. And it's that thing that, sometimes we get into this headspace, well, if I do everything well, if I perform well, if I figure out the role I need to play for myself, and I figure out how I can go from point A to point B, point C, then I will get the love and affection that I am so desperately wanting in this heart of mine. If I perform my role well, if I show up to the table the way I think I'm supposed to show up to the table, then I will get the love and affection I want, and I will have it. I will have it. Well, the full moon in Aquarius over there is like, hey, that's not how that works. We can't just detach into this space of breaking down our interactions in the way that we move through the world and the role that we cast ourselves in and expect to have that love and affection that we want. True love, unconditional love, and the experience of joy and pleasure and love is actually the release of control. The ability to enjoy pleasure or to receive information, experiences, sensations can't always come from us figuring out the formula and moving through it. In fact, love and pleasure comes from that release. And that opposition there, lighting up so perfectly like that, is really asking us where in our deepest affections, in the way we love, in the way we give, in the way we create, where we are trying to fill a role, where we assume this is what people want, this is what this person wants, this is what this situation wants, so I'm going to manipulate myself and my performance in order to make sure that it's all going okay. Now, these are all tied to a lot of survival mechanisms we often learn as small children or throughout life. These can be messages that come from our greater culture, from old, outmoded, ancestral worries about survival and making it work. So this moon is lighting up all those volatile parts of ourselves. Now, that doesn't have to all be a bad thing, because once again, these are two of my favorite energies of the whole year. Leo and Aquarius, you can't get better than that. Venus is in the mix here. So the one thing I want you to remember is that may be lighting up where you want to have control, where you want to have a sense of this is my role, this is how I'm going to play it, I'm going to know my map moving forward. Remember that this moon, these are playful energies, these are curious energies, these are relaxed energies. So initially you may feel that pinging up of I want to have control. But if you relax just a little bit and step back, you'll realize this is a very playful energy. Mars is a little bit involved in this conversation as well, because Mars is also in Leo at 28 degrees of Leo, so about 6 degrees away, not a close aspect. However, Mars does have an influence on all of this. He's not that far from his counterpart part Venus, not that far from the sun. Mars has a little bit of that tendency to also want control, also want to master things, take care of things, move forward on things. You know, fire and air energies are masculine principles in essence, right? So they want to be moving and acting and taking action and finding solutions and moving on it, which, yes, we have to have inspired actions in life, but they have to be inspired actions, not actions from fear, not actions from wanting control, not actions from making assumptions about what other people need or what you think the formula is. Star popped right out. You know, surrendering into receiving love and well-being and hope is a form of uncomfortable expansion. The moon and the Six of Swords. All right, let me pull one more. That I think sometimes we think, well, that's not that hard. That's just being lazy. That's just something that we know how to do. Like, isn't it harder to have to like show up? And Four of Pentacles. Okay. Isn't it harder to have to show up and do stuff? But I think releasing some of that sense of control, that we have to be perfect, that we have to perform a certain way, that we have to be a certain way, is showing up. It is consciously making a choice to live life with a little bit less fear and agitation and rigidity. It is making a choice to maybe release some pieces of armor. And actually that's what I'm seeing here, because the first two cards we have are about being emotionally vulnerable, connecting the pieces. We have the Star, which is the getting your wish card, right? But it's also the expansion card. We can't stay in the same loops, the same patterns anymore. And the moon is lighting up all those sensitive parts of ourselves that maybe are afraid to come out into the light, maybe are afraid to expand, because what will happen beyond that known shore? And that is where this moon may be hitting into some of your resistance when it comes to pleasure, when it comes to ease, when it comes to well-being, when it comes to letting yourself believe you can have the beautiful things you want. Interestingly enough, when you have these two cards together, the way that I'm feeling through this message and this energy is that, you know, you're leaving behind this rigid fear that if you let go of all those survival tactics, of all those ways you move through the world, of all the known pathways that you can formulate and pre-plan ahead, if you let go of those, you're going to be good. You're going to be happy. We can, you know, we obviously have to make plans in life. We have to make choices. We have to commit to things. We have to, you know, make purchases and invest in the things that feel right for us and the things that feel connected to us. And yes, we'll continue to have those questions come up daily, weekly, monthly, no matter what the energies are doing, right? No matter if it's a full moon, a new moon, what have you, we'll always be making choices and we'll always be having to weigh things out and and choose things and purchase things and put things on the calendar. But for as many things as you can fill out and make sure you're on top of, there are 100-fold things that you can't foresee and that you're not supposed to be controlling. Whether, you know, you believe in some of these vibrational poles that we have in the world and the way we interact with the world and the way it mirrors back, or you're really practical minded, no matter what mentality you come from, I think we can all agree that most things you're not going to have control of, you're not going to know beforehand, and you aren't going to be able to manhandle or form into the way that you think they need to be formed in by filling out your planner 4 weeks in advance, right? So it's also just kind of remembering, yes, there are practical tools to ground. There are practical ways to ask for what you want and to communicate what you need and do all of that. And there is also a sense that you can do that, and then you need to release the tension and the fear when it comes to all the rest of these things that are not under your jurisdiction whatsoever. There is a humbling that kind of comes with that, but then there's also an expansiveness that comes with that realization as well. And I think, you know, when we realize we are small in the spectrum of it all, but that makes us free from old armor and old fears and old patterns, that is what this moon is bringing up. So all the things you were trying to control in July, all the things maybe that were coming up that brought up fear, and also the things that were coming up for you in the new moon in Leo that happened on the 31st and into the 1st of August. I know a lot of people, that new moon pinged up a lot of worries, a lot of fears, a lot of doubts about their worth, about their value, about their ability to hold their space. And this full moon is culminating that and illuminating it and helping us see it from a different perspective, and maybe realizing that some of that fear and some of that control, it can be stuff that we get passed down for several generations. In the way we see the world. A lot of us have ancestors that barely made it, right? I mean, all of us do, right? We're all here from generations of people moving through life and its messiness and its wildness and its uncertainty, that we get passed down some of these desires for control. And this is a great moon to sit there and parse through, what is really yours? What is really yours? And what is something that was just handed to you as soon as you came here into this world, and it seemed like such a natural part of the flow because it was just there in the consciousness of your family dynamic or your social dynamic, that it didn't even seem like something to question. And now you can kind of see that you don't have to carry that with you. This moon will be doing a lot of that work with you, and that is often where we find that we are tapping into our most controlling, fearful worry loops, is in that part of our experience. So once we kind of tap into and realize that not all of that is ours to carry, not all of that is ours to keep producing year after year, it helps us relax into the beingness of the simplicity of just being us now. Not having to worry about who we need to be 5 months from now, who we need to be to our ancestors. We can just be here now. And to realize also that that affectionate, warm, big heart that wants the love, that wants the connection, that wants the safety, isn't wrong for wanting those things, isn't in error for asking for those things. But the way that we experience those things and actually let them in is not through our ancestral fear of and desire for control, right? So we want to figure out a way for that dialogue to happen and those parts of ourselves to come together and have a dialogue that frees us from that cage and removes some of that detached armor and that detached fear that can come up when we are having something like a Venus-Sun conjunction that is making us feel so open, so hopeful, and yet so fragile, especially during a full moon. I had some resistance sitting down to talk through this moon, and I think it's because probably a lot of these themes are coming up for me as well. Honestly, this is a moon that I feel deeply personally. I don't want to make this about me, but I just like to add, my process sometimes in these discussions. This full moon tends to be really, really powerful for me. I have an extremely deep attachment to Aquarian energy. It just runs through me, and it very much shows me myself. So as we work towards this energy, I always kind of feel these themes coming up for myself as well as I work through them and I refine and I keep practicing and getting better at all of these practices. And so just remember, full moons can bring some agitation and some fear and some doubt, and they can also illuminate things that maybe we didn't think today was the day that was going to get illuminated. So kind of keep your mind open. It's a great moon to do a lot of writing and to be outdoors with the ground and with the earth. Those are both fantastic ways to help kind of work with the fire air energy that is getting so lit up during this moon, because this is a very passionate energy and it is very much wanting to race forward into life with full vigor, and that's a fantastic thing. But when it's also bringing up emotional volatility, we want to make sure that we're having some grounding and some reconnection with what we're needing to feel safe, to feel held, and to feel that we can soften up and open up and remove some of those pieces of armor. So I'm sending you guys so much love for a beautiful full moon in Aquarius. I will see you for the next Moon Magic and for the monthly readings and for so much fun ahead. I love you guys so much.